أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, we are very close, just a couple of weeks away from our guest month, the month of Ramadan. And we usually talk a lot about the do's and don'ts of Ramadan, how we should fast, what things break our fast, how we should spend the whole day, what good acts we should do. But we often don't spend much time in the actual purpose. Why do we fast? What do we get when we fast? What is the main thing that we are striving for? The main goal of Ramadan. One thing. The main goal of Ramadan, as we will see, this is the topic, the taqwa, the topic of taqwa. And this is so important topic that we need to go into a lot of details, and I decided to make a topic of halaqah of it. And we shall see inshallah why this is so important. So what I'm going to discuss in this particular halaqah is basically taqwa. I'm going to talk about what exactly taqwa is. So many times we listen about taqwa, and after a few days we ask this brother or sister, what is taqwa? They are not able to define, because the concept has not really sink into their hearts. So I want to make it very clear, the concept, what exactly it is, what it is and what it is not, so people get a very clear picture. And there are also different levels of taqwa. It's not just one thing, and we're going to talk about what are the different levels and which level we are in. So I can give you some guidelines, and you can judge yourself, like really how good you are or how bad you are. And there are some guidelines and levels that we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about really why should we really spend so much time talking about this topic of taqwa. What are the verses? What are the ahadith? Why is it stressed so much? So we're going to spend more time, and inshallah we also will talk about the main benefits, the main virtues, what are the blessings we get, what are the rewards we get, gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what are the goodies you can say if you have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the most important thing, after learning everything, how do you increase in taqwa? How do you have, if you have attained taqwa, how can you keep increasing it, and what are the things that decrease it? So inshallah we're going to talk about how to attain taqwa and how to strengthen it inshallah. So let's talk about the main topic. What exactly is taqwa? What is the meaning of taqwa? So one word, if you want to use to say what the meaning of taqwa is, it is the shortest way of saying this is that you have to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you are conscious, if you are aware of the fact that Allah is watching you, then basically that is a sign of showing taqwa. Okay? You basically, when you have taqwa, you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are cautious about what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what causes Him to be displeased with us. Okay, that's the concept of taqwa. But basically what it comes down to is that it basically protecting yourself from desires, from sins, or from anything that can displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first thing is that you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of this consciousness, you develop these protection from the desires. So what exactly happens in real life, if you really want to picture this, is that we have been sent down in this world, right? And the way we are created, human beings, we have been given this thing called desires. Okay, this is not given to all creatures like angels. Do angels have desires? They don't have desires. It's human beings who have desires. So we have been sent in this world, and the whole purpose of our existence here is to give a test. Okay, and we will be bombarded every single day, every single minute with some desires, sometimes very strong, sometimes very weak. And the whole test is about protecting yourself from those desires. So what happens is that this desire tries to enter into your heart. Okay, sometimes it is a very serious sinful desire, and at that time in your heart there is basically something like a sensor or a radar which can detect that this desire is coming in your heart. Immediately you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that time you're cautious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the moment you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will cause you to protect yourself from that desire getting into your heart. Because if that desire gets into your heart, you will commit a sin. You will commit a sin. Okay? So this example again, if you really want to know the root word of taqwa, in Arabic it is called waqa'a, to protect yourself. It's the protection, the concept of protection. And even the in Arabs, the shield, in the battles, that the shield that they use it, they call it wiqa'a. Okay, that's what the Arabic word is, and this applies to the concept of taqwa. What are you shielding against in taqwa? You're basically the desires that come in. That's what you're trying to shield. This is once these desires get in, you are basically displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the anger of Allah, the wrath of Allah, and the hellfire and all those things. So you have to protect yourself from such things. That's what the concept of taqwa is all about. And once you are able to protect it, it will trigger an action which will cause you to either do something or stay away from it. Okay? It is not so simple, it is not so easy. I mean, it looks very easy, just take out a shield and protect yourself from desires. It is very difficult. Sometimes you might have a very strong desire, and protecting this desire, protecting yourself against this desire, it can be very painful even. Right? If it's a very strong desire, it's going to take a lot out of you to protect yourself from such a desire. So that's what taqwa is all about. If you are very strong, a muttaqi person, then you will be easily able to protect yourself. Otherwise, the desires will able to get through. Even though you have taqwa, you have the shield, it will be able to easily get into your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a verse where it defines basically the meaning of taqwa in Surah Al-A'raf. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. إن الذين تقوا إذا مسهم طائف من الشيطان تذكروا فإذا هم مبصرون. The translation of this close meaning: indeed, those who have taqwa, when an evil thought comes to them from shaitan, they remember Allah, and indeed they then see aright. Then they can see what is right. So that's what it is. Describing the people who have taqwa, what happens, it is a given thing that these people will be attacked. Every human being will be attacked by something. Usually it is shaitan. Sometimes it can be from your own soul, from your within yourself. These desires can come in and it will try to attack you. And because you have taqwa, you can easily sense it, that there is something wrong, there is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not like. So what they do immediately, they remember Allah, they are conscious of Allah, they are cautious of Allah. So when they start remembering and thinking about Allah, then they see it aright. They will then take the right action. So the two things, one is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering Him. The other thing is taking an action. So some people remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala but are not able to take action. So for example, if somebody is committing haram, we tell them, brother, this is haram, don't do it. So we remind them, but they are not able to take action because their taqwa is low, so their shield is not strong. So their desires get in and they are not able to stop themselves from those sins. Okay. And you often see different translations of the word taqwa. Sometimes you see fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes you see the word piety or righteousness. So those are clear, those are close words. They're not exactly defining taqwa. For example, fear, the actual Arabic word for that is khashya. Khashya Rahman, for example. So it has concept of fear. You're conscious of Allah, and because of that you're fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's why you're trying to protect yourself. So it has kind of overlapping, but one word you should never forget is consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the whole point of taqwa. That's something that you should always remember. Okay, so where exactly is this taqwa located? Where can we find this taqwa? Inside our body. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith, the very famous hadith that you know, he pointed out to his chest and he said, Taqwa Hahuna, Taqwa Hahuna. 3 times he pointed to his chest, basically saying that taqwa is in the heart. Taqwa is in the heart. Basically, what that means is that we cannot say how much taqwa people have. Right? I don't know how much taqwa you got. It's only between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we cannot judge people also. That, you know, somebody is praying 5 times a day. We don't say this is mashallah confirmed muttaqi person. No, we don't know, because sometimes people do things which are displeasing to Allah and we don't even know that. So it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who knows that. And also he points to the heart, basically meaning that it's not your actual actions that defines taqwa, it's actually the heart. But some people go the other way around, where if you tell them, brother, why are you not praying? They say that I have a lot of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't really need to pray because Allah looks only in the heart. So that is not the correct concept. So what you should always remember is that if you have something in your heart, if you have real true love of God, if you have real true taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will automatically make you do certain actions. Okay? So for example, if I have a child or a daughter of mine, I tell people that I really love this child of mine. Okay? And if my daughter falls off the stairs, right? If I don't help her and tell people tell me, why are you not helping? You know, if you say I love her but I don't want to help her right now, does that mean that you really love her? You don't really love her, because when you love somebody, you will be drawn into taking an action. Same thing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you really love Him, you will do certain actions. You cannot just say, my heart is pure, my heart is full with love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. So actions are necessary condition. You have to act, but actions in and of itself is not sufficient. Okay? So that thing you have to remember. The other thing that you should know is the main thing that we are trying to protect ourselves, the desires. There are different kinds of desires. Okay? Some desires are very serious, sinful desires. We have to stay away from them. But sometimes it can be like dislike desires. It is not sinful, but it is something that we should stay away from. And sometimes it is a permissible desire. Okay, and you still have to protect yourself. For example, like sleeping, right? Sleeping is a permissible desire. You can sleep how much ever you want at night. But there are some people, they protect themselves from this desire of sleeping to pray tahajjud or qiyamul layl, for example. So that is called taqwa. It's a muttaqi person can wake up for qiyamul layl, and a person with weak taqwa cannot wake up because he's not able to sacrifice or not able to protect himself from these desires. Okay, but at the end of the day, all taqwa it's all about is sacrificing. That's what it is. Sacrificing your desires, and sometimes it is very painful. Sometimes you have to really, if the desire is very strong, you have to take extra measures and strengthen yourself to be able to deal with those desires. So these desires can be good and bad, and the result is what we need to look into, whether we are doing or pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not. So a famous example that we often listen in the khutbahs and many talks, that it's very beautifully demonstrated by another example given by the famous companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name was Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu. So Umar radiallahu anhu, the second Khalifa, he wanted to know the meaning of taqwa. So he went to Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu, and obviously we know Ubay, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praised him. He had very good knowledge of Qur'an. He had very good knowledge of the concepts. He prayed for him. So Umar goes to him and he asks him, what is the meaning of taqwa? What is taqwa? So he replied to Umar, did you ever go into a thorny path, a place where there's a lot of thorns, into a forest or wherever? And have you walked yourself in it while wearing a cloak or something? So Umar said that yes, I have went on numerous occasions, many times. So Ubay asked, how did you go into that path? How did you travel? How did you walk? So Umar radiallahu anhu said that when I was walking, I was very cautious. I made very sure that no thorn can touch my cloth. I didn't want my clothes to get torn, so that's why I was very cautious and I walked that way. So Ubay said that this exactly is what is the meaning of taqwa. This is the meaning of taqwa. So what exactly does the thorns represent here in this example? The desires, the sins, or anything that can cause displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does clothes represent here? Huh? Clothes is the heart, basically. It's the heart. You don't want to harm your heart. When desires come, it attacks what? It doesn't attack your feet or legs. It attacks your heart. And what does the cautiousness of Umar radiallahu anhu represent? Cautiousness, this is what is the meaning of taqwa. So you're so cautious, you're aware of the fact that this thorn is going to hurt me, or hurt my clothes. So this cautiousness is exactly taqwa. So in the concept of taqwa, and the other one that I talked about, it basically means that these sins are trying to attack my heart. So I want to be so cautious. I want to stay away from it and protect myself from these sins, from these desires. So that's what the concept of taqwa is. And remember, these desires, if you're not strong enough, your taqwa is not strong, they attack your heart. And who can tell me the hadith, what happens if you commit a sin to your heart?
Black dot.
Black dot, very good. The black dot comes into your heart, it makes a spot. And as you keep committing those sins, it becomes more and more black. This is metaphorical example, and eventually all your heart will be black. So that's why if you don't have strong taqwa, in no time your heart will be very black. Okay? So it's going to damage your heart, and that's the whole point. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that this lump of flesh that you have in your heart, if this is corrupted, your entire body is corrupted. So if the desires were to just harm your hands or legs, it's no big deal, it will be fine. But if it attacks your heart, it's gone. Your whole body is gone. Your taqwa is gone, and you will displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is a person who has taqwa is called? Muttaqi, or plural is muttaqun or muttaqin. Okay. So now let's look at the different levels of taqwa. So not everybody is on the same level. And what exactly do we need to do to have the minimum taqwa? What actions do we need to do? So scholars have basically broken down into 4 levels. This is based on observation and experience. The scholar said that the most important thing that you need to do, which is obligatory, necessary, no option for you, is to stay away from all prohibitions that is defined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Plus, you have to do all the obligatory things. Anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands, you have to do it. This is the bare minimum. If you do not have this, your taqwa is not complete. The minimum taqwa is not complete. This is necessary. And this basically includes everything, right? The salah, the zakah, and staying away from obscenity, staying away from haram, riba, everything. Next level comes the voluntary acts, the nawafil. So here you not only do the obligatory, but you want to do a little bit extra. So only if you have this strong taqwa, you will be able to come into this level. Okay? And this is where you try to offer all your sunnah prayers. You try to fast on Mondays and Thursdays. You try to fast on 13th, 14th, 15th of every month. This is where you wake up for qiyamul layl. You go for tahajjud prayer. You do lots of different things. So these are all voluntary. Even coming to this halaqah will fall into this. Seeking knowledge is also a worship, right? So it's a voluntary act. And inshallah, because of this coming of yours to halaqah, you will gain taqwa. Inshallah. And then the next third level comes the what we call the doubtful matters. You will stay away. Anything that is doubtful, you will try to protect yourselves. In Arabic we call it mutashabihat. So there are a few things which are mutashabihat, and basically what this means is that there is an ikhtilaf on some issue. There is difference of opinion among scholars. So what people they do sometimes is that, let me take this scholar's opinion. This is easy. I will take it. So they do basically what we call fatwa shopping. They shop around and they see which is the easiest one, and they'll follow it. So basically sometimes they just pick on the mistakes of the scholars. So why usually we have these ikhtilaf, the difference of opinion, is because they use the same evidence, same hadith, but they interpret it differently according to their knowledge, according to their experiences. They interpret it differently. But sometimes what happens, people go about shopping for those things. So whatever is pleasing to their desires, they follow it. And if you ask them, brother, this is wrong, you shouldn't do it, they'll they say, look, I have fatwa from a scholar, I'll do it. There's no problem with it. So that's what the problem is. In your heart, you know that this thing that I'm following doesn't look correct. I have to stay away from it. But since you don't have a strong taqwa, you basically tell yourself that this is okay, this is allowed. So
in that case, what do we do? Follow the majority?
We basically, the person of taqwa always takes the safe side, always, which is the safe. So if it's not safe, for example, what the people should usually do is, they should not go by desires. If they have different of opinions, they see based on evidences, based on each scholar, how they are approaching the matter and what verses they are showing us, what hadith they are showing us. We see it, evaluate it, and you then come to the conclusion that, okay, this looks more better, it makes more sense to me, so I will follow. Not because it is easy or it is more pleasing to me, but because it makes more sense to me. Okay, that's how student of knowledge decides which one is stronger and which one I should choose. And basically they always take the fatwa of their heart whenever there is ikhtilaf. They know that 90% scholars say that this is allowed, but in my heart I feel that there's something wrong with it, so to be on the safe side I want to stay away from it. So this is called taqwa. You take extra precaution. Okay, so for this, in the example of this the thorny path that I was giving, you can imagine, like, sometimes some thorns are like very small, you cannot even see, right? And some people are careless and they just walk. Some thorns are very obvious, but some thorns you cannot see. So people who have a lot of taqwa, they will stay away from those doubtful thorns. They don't even know if it is thorn or not, but I want to be safe, I want to stay away from it. So that's what the taqwa is all about. And Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, I like his quote, it's very beautiful. He said that a servant shall never reach the reality of taqwa until he leaves that which causes him to feel guilty in his heart. So if he is feeling guilty, even though he has fatwas, he tells himself that there is something wrong with it, so he leaves it. He leaves it, and that's the reality of taqwa. That's what he's saying. So that's like, not everybody can do it. Some people are slaves of their desires, so they fall into this trap and they get into this. So that's the third level. The fourth, which is the most difficult level, which only very few people will be able to do, is zuhud, or the zahid. When you practice this is basically about abstinence from the worldly desires. You basically, sometimes you choose certain things and you stay away from it, even though it is permissible. So for example, I can sleep late, right? I mean, I don't have to go sleep exactly at 10 o'clock. I will sleep at 2 o'clock. No problem, right? It's halal. I'm not going to be punished if I sleep at 2 o'clock. But you wanted to enjoy in that time. But a muttaqi person, what he does is that he will sacrifice his desire. All my friends are playing until 2 o'clock. I will be involved in that play and I'll have fun. But a muttaqi person, he's very careful. He says that, okay, if I stay up until 2 o'clock, I might miss my Fajr prayer. So I want to take extra precautions. Even though it is permissible for me, I will stay away from it. And I will try to sleep early and make sure that I will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by waking up. And it applies to many things. Even the food that we eat. Eating food is halal, Eating food is halal, and you eat 1/3 and so on. It is halal. But some people are like, they want to eat very little. Even though it's permissible, they want to eat very little. Why? Because they tell themselves that I will have more khushu, more focus in salah if I eat less. So that's how they are thinking. So they are sacrificing some permissible desires. Why? Just to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the same example of the thorny path, right? So there are the thorns. Some people stay away like 1 feet away from thorns. Look, I'm staying away. It's not going to harm me. But some people are so cautious that they'll stay 10 feet away from it. I know I can go close, 2 feet, 3 feet, but I want to take extra precautions. I know I will not be harmed if I go 2 feet away, but I want to stay far, far away from it, 10 feet away, so I will not be harmed. So that's what zuhud is. So what happens is that when you have this concept, when you have this attitude towards life, you will be very successful, and that's how you become very strong muttaqi person. Because now you control your desires. So even though you have permissible desires, you can control your desires. Where you want it to take it, it will go. That's what zuhud does to you. And this is unfortunately a practice which most of the Muslims have forgotten. Inshallah, if time permits, I will get into this topic. It's a very beautiful topic. And this is, once you have this level, everything becomes easy for you. Okay, you try to sacrifice even permissible pleasure. But it doesn't mean that you turn into a monk and go into a cave. No, that's not what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. We believe that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the best zahid that ever walked on the face of this earth. He was the best one in terms of sacrificing the worldly pleasures, and we take examples from him. Okay. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned in this hadith in Ibn Majah, the servant will not acquire the status of those with taqwa until he abandons what is harmless out of fear of falling into that which is harmful. You're saying what he's saying here. What he's saying is that even though something is harmless, he still stays away from it. Why? Because that can lead to something that is harmful. Same thing. So that's what this does to you. Okay. So now we understand what really taqwa is and how we can get into becoming better and better muttaqi person. Let's look how much importance, how much stress have been placed in Qur'an and Sunnah about this topic. Okay. So the very first thing that I want to mention is that this word taqwa, it has repeated many times in Holy Qur'an, and it's about 217 times in different forms. Like in Arabic you have different forms, not exactly the word taqwa, but muttaqi, itqakum, taqa, taqi. So these are different forms. If you count them all, it's like 217 times. And the thing here is that what you should know is, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is repeating something often, it basically means that it's something that we need to really look into, and not just look into, but think about it, discuss about it, and talk a lot about it with your family, with friends, and go detail about this topic. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, وَاتَّقُونِي يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ, and have my taqwa, O you people of understanding. O you of understanding, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this form of a word is used many times. Ittaqillah, fear Allah, have consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Next thing, why it's so important is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself gave as a command. So it's not an option for us, okay, taqwa is a good thing for me, so I will have taqwa. No, it's something compulsory. You have to have taqwa. If you do not have taqwa, you're going to fail in the test. The main purpose of coming into this life is you're going to fail. What's the evidence for it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting the condition here that, and have taqwa of Allah if you should truly be believers. And have taqwa of Allah if you should be believers. If you are really a believer, you necessarily have to have taqwa. And it's a command. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do something, it basically means you have to do it. You don't have an option there. This is in Surah Al-Ma'idah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is not just in our ummah, it's for every nation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the same command that you got to have taqwa. Okay? And many other verses He said that وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, and cooperate in birr, righteousness, and taqwa, consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you got to cooperate with each other. Okay? And another thing, why it's so important is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that this is our main test. This is the main purpose why you have been sent in this world. Okay? This is so much important that if you don't know about this, you don't know about your test. Okay? So what exactly is He saying in this particular verse? He explains about few things, and then He says that أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ امْتَحَنَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِلتَّقْوَى لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. They are the ones whose hearts Allah has tested for taqwa. For them is forgiveness and great reward. So this was in the context of lowering your voice. When you are in the front of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have to have certain etiquettes. You have to lower your voice, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you have to change your character. You have to change your attitude, and that is part of taqwa. And that's what the test is all about. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test you exactly with this desire of yours, whether you're going to protect yourself from those desires or not. And that is test of taqwa. That's what it's all about. Okay, next very important thing. This coming month, the Ramadan, this month we call the month of taqwa. This is all about taqwa, this Ramadan. And notice here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not dedicating one day or 1 week. Out of the whole year, one whole month is dedicated. And it's not just one lifetime like the Hajj thing. It's not once in a lifetime. Every single year you have to go through this. Okay, so it basically tells you there's no other thing that has this kind of training or this kind of repetition. One whole month. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is the word which you often hear like hundreds of times till now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the reason of fasting. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, so that you may attain taqwa. The whole purpose of fasting. So if you are fasting and at the end of the month you do not have taqwa, Ramadan was a waste for you. You didn't really gain what you wanted to gain. But it's amazing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us in this world and asks us to give this test, and then He also helps us prepare for that test. He just didn't leave us. He said that I'm going to help you, I'm going to train you Ramadan is going to be one whole month of training, and after that training you will be able to pass in my test. That quality that you will develop, you will be able to use the 11 months after Ramadan. So this is how it's important, one whole month. Beginning of every khutbah, every Jummah, since we started coming into the masjid, every Friday we come here and we listen to the khutbah of the khatib, and notice that every time a khatib gives khutbah, when he starts something, he mentions 3 verses always. He mentions 3 verses all the time. What are those verses? يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. This is the first verse, right? And this is from Surah Al Imran. And also this one, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. Second verse, this is from which surah? Suratun Nisa. And this is the third one, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا. Notice this, you must have memorized this by now, but what is the common thing in these 3 verses? You see the words taqwa repeating here, the highlighted one with red. And this, what we call, this one is called khutbatul haja. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he used to give khutbah or any talk, he used to begin with these verses and some other verses. Always. I mean, he could have chosen many verses, but he is continuously reminding his fellow companions and all other Muslims that this is so much important topic that I always have to remind you. Taqwa, ittaqillah. So unfortunately, it has become so common that when the khatib is reciting this, you are basically telling to yourself, oh yeah, we hear all these verses all the time. Tell us the main topic, what is it? So they always are focusing on something else. But remember, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam always is repeating this. Why? Because he wants us to understand the importance of it and start thinking about it. So when the khatib is reciting these verses, try to understand these verses, try to comprehend these verses. And sometimes, in the good old days, when they used to have short khutbahs, when they just used to recite this, ittaqillah, they just started to cry. They didn't even reach the actual topic here. The khatib didn't even reach the actual topic. When they hear this word ittaqillah, they started to cry. So that's how it should be. Focus on what the khatib is saying. Okay? And this is again very great verse. Who is the most honored person? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, when you go on to the day of judgment, there will be some people who are more honored than others. Some people who will be given better Jannah than others. Some people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will elevate them more than others. What is that quality? That is taqwa. Why? As I mentioned last week, it is the verse in Surah Al-Hujurat again. إن أكرمكم عند الله اتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is he who has the most taqwa, and Allah has full knowledge and is well acquainted. Okay, so it's not, notice here, is not saying the one who has more wealth, the one who is very rich, the one who has a lot of degrees, and he's not even saying the one who memorized a lot of Qur'an or one who prays a lot of salah. He's very eloquent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the precise word. He's saying those who have the most taqwa, I am going to honor them the most. I am going to arrange people based on how much taqwa they had, and I am going to give Jannah according to that level of taqwa that they had. So that is the reason why this is something very honored. The single most thing, brothers and sisters, taqwa, that's why we need to go so much detail into it. We have to look at from the right, left, up and down. Make sure this concept of taqwa is really, it sinks into our heart and we implement it in our lives. And another one, the importance of this topic is the criteria for superiority. So among us who is like superior. The same concept here from the previous one. Who is more superior? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mentioned this very beautiful hadith. He said that know that there is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or non-Arab over an Arab, nor of a white over a black, or of a black over a white, except, this is the point, except through taqwa. Except through taqwa. So it doesn't really matter who you are, what you are, whether you are illiterate, whether you're a farmer, doesn't really matter. You have taqwa or not. If you have taqwa, keep your PhD with you, it doesn't really matter. But if you have taqwa, I basically defeated you, because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at on the day of judgment. Your knowledge, everything that you earn, and if you don't have taqwa, it's a waste. So that's why among us, who is more muttaqi person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, because it is about the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in the heart. So if I'm speaking about taqwa, or the khatib is speaking about the taqwa, it doesn't mean that we have taqwa. Okay, a farmer or an illiterate person or an uneducated person, he can have more taqwa than all of us. We don't know. I might do some things which you don't know that I'm doing, because of which Allah is displeased. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and help us strengthen our taqwa. So it's all between Allah and yourself. Nobody else knows it. Okay. So what exactly does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look at? There is another verse. لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن يناله التقوى منكم. Their meat will not reach Allah, nor will their blood, but what reaches Him is taqwa from you. So it's talking about the slaughtering. When you slaughter for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not about how much you slaughter or how much blood you draw or how much meat you are able to sacrifice. It's all about how much taqwa you had in your heart, how much love of Allah you had, how much consciousness of Allah you had. That's what it all comes down to. So in the coming month, the Ramadhan, some people are like, I have to pray Taraweeh. They pray Taraweeh, and at the end of the Taraweeh, they are very, very happy that I prayed Taraweeh. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala look? Does He look at the number of sajdas you made? What He's saying here is that what reaches Him is taqwa from you. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees is your heart. When you are praying Taraweeh prayers, how much of love you had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the thing that connects you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the reason why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when you do a good deed, you get 10 rewards, up to how much? 700 or even more. That's based on what? How much taqwa you had. How much were you thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you are not thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're basically going to go with just 10 rewards, right? But if you are in your Taraweeh prayers, you're always thinking about, oh, Allah is going to watch me, Allah is seeing me, and I have to really think what I am saying or what Imam is reciting, then you shoot up to 700 or even more. So that's what taqwa does, and it is exactly this feeling in your heart that reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what it's all about. Next amazing thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions is that these people are the guardians of the masjid. They are given this honor. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in this verse, إن أولياؤه إلا المتقون ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. Its true guardians, the Masjid al-Haram's true guardians are not but the muttaqun, but most of them do not know. So it's very important. The one who are supposed to take care of the masjid. This is our masjid, we need to take care of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that some people get the honor of maintaining it. Who are those people? Those are the people of taqwa. So usually sometimes we see, like in the fundraisers or something, people say that I am going to give $50,000 to the masjid fund, make me the president. Do we give them this honor? No, we check the main thing of taqwa. If the person doesn't have taqwa, we don't give him any position in the masjid. So because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying its guardians, its true guardians are who? The muttaqun people. So if a person is openly committing sins, you don't see him in the masjid at all, and all of a sudden he's saying, I want to control the masjid. No, you're not qualified to be the guardian of the masjid. So this honor is only given to the muttaqi person. So that's why it is so important that you got to have this quality of taqwa. How much taqwa should we have really? Should we have half the effort of the day? How much should we really strive for? How much taqwa should we aim for? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned in Surah Al Imraan, the verse previously I recited. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you have believed, have taqwa of Allah as He should be feared, or as He deserves the right. You see the word here, haqq. This is the key word here. What is the right? How much does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deserve? You need to give that much. So how much does He deserve? A lot, right? What's the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's a lot. So at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, were you having taqwa during the day or not? Did I give that right of taqwa to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? If not, then you're not doing it the right way. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it more clear in another verse. He said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Have taqwa of Allah as much as you can. As much as you can. Istatat. How much? Whatever you are capable of. Everybody has different capability. But again, at the end of the day, you ask yourself, did you give your best today? Did you try full? If yes, then you're good. If you are saying that I should have done better, then you have not given the right. You should have done better. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this topic is so much important that you have to put everything into it, whatever you got. This is the main purpose why I sent you in this world. You gotta have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you gotta give your best thing. And it is going to be painful. You go to gym, you cannot just start lifting 100 pounds of weight, right? It's going to be painful. You slowly, step by step, ladder by ladder, build it, and eventually you become a very strong person. And that's what Ramadan does to us. Slowly it trains you, and you get the required abilities, and then you use that training and apply it to the rest of the 11 months. And that's how you become strong. And eventually the more sins and desires will come, you will become weak again. And that's why again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps repeating it, because He knows we are weak. We are going to fall weak again and start committing sins, and that's why He brings Ramadan again, alhamdulillah. And that's why we remain strong and have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What exactly happens if I become a person of taqwa, a muttaqi? What benefits do I get? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in Qur'an? What did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say in the hadith? What are the blessings we get? So let's look into this. So first of all, we find that you will get the help and protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al Imraan, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, إن تصبروا وتتقوا ويأتوكم من فورهم هذا يمددكم ربكم بخمسة آلاف من الملائكة مسومين. So the close translation of this is that if you remain patient and have taqwa, and the enemy come upon you in rage, your Lord will reinforce you with 5,000 angels having marks of distinction. This was basically in the context of Battle of Badr. And you remember from the Seerah, Battle of Badr, they were 3 times or more than us, and they were better equipped, the kuffar. And people were just thinking, how are we going to win? How is it going to be possible? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse, and it's very clear that just have taqwa. Allah is saying, just have taqwa, I'll take care of it. Help and protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's how you get it. Okay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, Wallahu waliyul muttaqeen. Allah is the protector, awliya, wali of muttaqeen. Okay, and also in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Have taqwa of Allah and know that Allah is with those who are muttaqun. So Allah is with the muttaqun, ma'al muttaqin. So that's why it's a very high status. The people who have taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help will immediately come. So that's one way to get the help and protection from Allah. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about who is going to stop me, who's going to fight with me. Should I try to act not as a Muslim, otherwise people are going to attack me, so much of hate going on. Don't worry about it. If you have taqwa of Allah, Allah is going to take care of you, because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here. So that's one blessing. Second benefit, it's a solution to all our problems. Any problem that you have, just write it down on a piece of paper. What's going to happen to that problem if you have taqwa? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. I'm not saying it. He said, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا. And whoever has taqwa of Allah, He will make for him a way out. He will make for him a way out. So, whatever it is, whatever problem you have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Just have taqwa. And just see from the history, so many examples I can give. It reminds me of an example where the story of Musa alayhi salam, right? When the Pharaoh was coming from the back and they were like stuck, there's like a sea in the front and the army is going to attack. Then the Jews, at that time they were Muslims, so they were asking, we are going to be killed now, the army is coming. So they had no clue. They thought that they are just done. It's over. Their lives are over. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, I'll make for them a way out. What did He do? Musa alayhi salam hit the staff into the sea, and what happened? The whole sea split. You know the whole story, right? And they all walked, and the Pharaoh came, and they were all drowned. So you sometimes don't even know that how the help of Allah will come. But Allah is saying, just have taqwa, leave things to me, I'll take care of it. So it's just the problem here is that we have doubts. When we have doubts, we don't have taqwa. Doubts are a very dangerous thing. You either believe completely or not. That's the problem. People, they have doubts. They think that it's okay. That's the problem. No, it's not okay. You have to have complete belief, complete trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is saying, I am going to make a way out for you. We have to believe it's going to happen. There is no doubt about it. So just focus on having taqwa. Just be aware that Allah is watching me, Allah is taking care of me. I have to be careful, conscious, and inshallah everything will be okay. In the very same verse, the continuation of that same verse that I just recited, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is actually a source of income. That's very interesting. Let's see what He says. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And whoever has taqwa of Allah, He will make for him a way out and will provide for him from where he does not expect. You see the word here, yarzuq, rizq. You always hear that, right? He will provide, He will give you rizq, He will give you sustenance from where you will not even expect. You will not even have any clue. You will have no idea. I will take care of it. It's not only I'm going to protect you, not only I'm going to make a way out for you, provide you a solution, but also I'm going to give you wealth, risk, whatever is needed for you to live in this world. Even though you think it's not possible, economy is so bad, this, that, my skills and those things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you just do your part, do whatever needs to be done, then leave everything to me. I am going to provide you from places where you will not even imagine, from where He does not expect. Min haythu la yahtasib. You can't even think about it, but just leave it to me. So that's something that we need to think about. Unfortunately, this is most neglected source of income. People always think like, I have to invest in retirements, I have to invest in the stocks, I have to do the side business, I have some savings, inshallah this will take care of my retirement, this and that. Those all might be good, but if you don't have taqwa, you don't have actual source of income, you're not going to get money. Allah is saying, I will give you money. I will give you risk. It's there. It is Qur'an. It's not from me. It's not from saying of a scholar. Allah is saying, you will get money. You will get wealth. Okay? So that's what taqwa does. A big blessing. And similar thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about this one and says that it is the best provision, best thing that you can have. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وتزودوا فإن خير الزاد التقوى واتقون يا أولي الألباب يا أولي الألباب. And take provision, but indeed the best provision is taqwa. And have my taqwa, O you of understanding. So this verse is basically revealed in the context of when people go for Hajj. Allah is saying, make Hajj for me. And He's saying, when you do go for Hajj, take provision with you. Whatever you need clothes, you need food, you need water, you need medicine, you need ride, whatever you need, take it with you. But then He says, very interesting, He says, the most important thing, the best of all provisions that you need to come to my house, you have to come with taqwa. That is the best thing. So among all the provisions you have, this is the best thing compared to all other provisions. Why? Because if you have taqwa, you basically will automatically get other things, as we just saw in the previous verse, right? Because it is a source of income and all these good things happen as a blessing. So that is why it is the best provision that you can have. And it shouldn't be like second or third. It should always be number one in your list. And believe that it is the best provision. So the thing here is that sometimes in our life we lose a lot of things, right? We lose wealth, we lose our loved ones, we lose our house, or whatever it is. A calamity happens, houses burn, whatever. It's not a big deal. You have to ask, did I lose taqwa? Did I skip a Fajr prayer? Did I miss Fajr prayer? Did my taqwa got weak? If yes, then big problem. You have lost big thing, because you have lost the best thing you got. You decreased something. So that's the reason Allah is saying this is the best provision, and make it number one in your life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then mentions that in this world you will have glad tidings. Okay? What does He say? الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون وكانوا يتقون لهم البشرى في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة لا تبديل لكلمات الله ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. Those who believed and had taqwa, for them are good tidings in the worldly life and in the hereafter. No change is there in the words of Allah. That is what is the great attainment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying about this worldly life. We're going to talk about hereafter in a couple slides, but in this world itself, you will have glad tidings. If you have taqwa, you will have glad tidings. Something good will happen to you in this world. Something good, we don't know when it will happen, but we know that it is going to happen in your lifetime. Okay? And it's really true, because if I tell you I'll give you all the wealth in your life, but it's not, wealth is not everything, right? Sometimes people have wealth, but they don't have contentment in their heart. They don't have happiness in their heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that glad tidings, good things will come in your life. So that's what is so important. That's a blessing of taqwa. You will live a very happy life in this world because of taqwa. And it's interesting if you notice that Allah is saying no change is there in the words of Allah, because He's basically telling that I'm not going to change my mind here. Once I say something, it is done deal. I will give you good tidings, good things in this life, and I'm not going to change it, and this will remain forever. And if you get this taqwa, this is the great achievement. This is the great attainment. Fawzul azim. Okay. Number 6, the blessing, benefits of taqwa. The path to success becomes easy. Most of you know these verses. فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى وَاتَّقَى وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. As for he who gives and has taqwa and believes in the best, we will make easy for him the path of ease. The path of ease. What does that mean? That in this world and in the world hereafter, we want to do a lot of things. We want to achieve a lot of things. In this world, maybe we want to, feed our family and, get good job, get good career. And in Akhirah, we want good Jannah and, make everything easy. So this is a path to success. That's why we want to go. That's what our goal is. But not every goal is easy. Not every goal is easy. Some paths are very difficult, and especially if you have an enemy, shaitan, 24/7 working on you not to be successful, it is a very difficult thing. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I will make it easy for you. Even though it is very difficult, you cannot do it by your own, I am going to make it easy for you. What do you need to have? You need to have taqwa and all other things. That you have sadaqah, that you give sadaqah, and you believe in the best. So mainly, if you have taqwa, everything will follow. But if you have taqwa, inshallah, everything will become easy. If you are struggling in Islam to leave a haram act, for example, and you are focusing on it, and you want to get rid of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, just have my taqwa, just be conscious of me, I will make it easy for you. An example I can give you, in the olden days, the car that we used to drive, the steering that we used to have, right? How it used to be. It's like very difficult to steer. Nowadays we have the power steering example, right? So to steer is very easy because of that power steering. So something works on our behalf when we move the steering. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, just do your part and I will take care of it. I will help you out and I will make things easy for you. You do just a little bit and I will take care of the rest. So that's what it is. Allah will make it easy for us. Other benefit and blessing that we see from Holy Qur'an is that we will receive guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does he say? يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تتقوا الله يجعل لكم فرقانا. O you who have believed, if you have taqwa of Allah, He will grant you a criterion, that is to judge between right and wrong. The Furqan, which is like basically an ability of yours to decide what is good and what is bad. So it's very common in our life. Sometimes we are faced with decisions, whether it's for worldly matter or for the hereafter. We always ask ourselves, is this good or bad? How do I know if it is good or bad? Whether I'm going to be successful or not? Which one to choose? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if you have my taqwa, then I will grant you al-furqan. It will be very easy for you. I will put this in your heart, which one to choose. Which one is good for you, which one is bad for you. Sometimes we are confused, sometimes we don't know. And that's why we say that our hearts sometimes have an inclination towards the good thing, and Allah is directly going to put. So we don't have to be scholars for that. But Allah is saying sometimes when you really need it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put it. You will know that, okay, even though people are saying this is a bad thing, I feel that it's a good thing, so I should do it. And vice versa. Okay, so that's one thing. And another one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, He will increase you in knowledge. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. And have taqwa of Allah, and Allah shall teach you. Allah shall teach you. So, if you have taqwa of Allah, Allah is going to give you some knowledge. He'll teach you automatically. That you will try to learn very easily whatever you want to learn. And this is very important. Knowledge is very much important. Well, not everybody can be a scholar, right? But in our life, we need to have some basic knowledge, some knowledge that will help us for akhirah. As I just mentioned, that shaitan, Iblis, he is not working just full-time 8-hour job. He is always with us 24/7, trying to make things difficult for us. And sometimes he creates doubts in our mind, okay? And because of those doubts, we kind of shake a little bit, and it affects our worship. And for example, like computers, right? If you buy a new computer or a laptop, and if you don't have knowledge about computers, and you want to be very careful that you don't mess up with something, so if something wrong happens to it, the screen just goes off, you're like scared, right? You get scared. Why? Because you don't have knowledge. You're concerned that I might have messed up something. That's what happens if you don't have knowledge. But if you have knowledge, if you've been handling computers for like 7-8 years, you know that, okay, I just have to reboot or do this, do that. So what I'm trying to get here is that if you have knowledge about something, you will be confident. And when you're confident, your actions will be very strong. Shaitan exactly tries to do that. He wants to confuse you. He wants to put you into doubt so that your worship is of very low quality. That's what he's trying to do. And Allah is saying, if you have my taqwa, I will give you knowledge. Because of that, you will be very confident, and you'll be able to fight against shaitan and be successful in your worship, inshallah. So it applies to everything, whether you want to. Some people are trying to learn Arabic, some people trying to learn tajweed, some people try to learn the halal and haram. Allah is saying, just have taqwa, I will make things easy for you, I will teach you, I will arrange for you what you should learn, how you should learn. Okay, just have my taqwa. It's another blessing. Forgiveness of sins. Beautiful one. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تتقوا الله يجعل لكم فرقانا ويكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويغفر لكم والله ذو الفضل العظيم. Same verse we recited earlier, more addition to this. O you who have believed, if you have taqwa, Allah will grant you a criterion to judge between right and wrong, and will remove from you your misdeeds and forgive you. And Allah is the possessor of great bounty. It's all gone. All your sins are taken out. This, you see here, kafara, it basically means to hide. It's like off the records even. It's not just forgiving it. It's as if like on the day of judgment you go there and, hey, I did that sin, where did it go? And Allah is saying, I covered it up. Because you had taqwa and nobody else will know, it's gone off the record. So that's how great the blessing of taqwa is automatically done for you. This is from Surah Al-Anfal. Special mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَآمِنُوا بِرَسُولِهِ يُؤْتِكُمْ كِفْلَيْنِ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ نُورًا تَمْشُونَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. O you who have believed, have taqwa of Allah and believe in His Messenger, He will then give you a double portion of His mercy and make for you a light by which you will walk, and He will forgive you, and Allah is forgiving and merciful. I really like this verse. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I'm not just going to be merciful, I'm going to give you extra, double the mercy. And I can go on and talk a lot about mercy, but remember that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to judging us or giving us based on our actions and our abilities, it's going to be very difficult for us. We will not be able to make it. We cannot make it into Jannah without the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we do not deserve few things. Based on what we are, we do not deserve whatever Jannah we need to get or whatever blessings we need to get in this world. Okay, I do not have the capabilities to achieve the following in my worldly life, but since Allah was merciful to me, I was able to achieve more. Other people who worked the same amount of effort got less, but I got more, even though I was not deserving of it. Why? Because Allah had mercy on me. And He's saying not just mercy, a special mercy, 2 times the mercy, kiflain, right? So I can give many examples, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically favors few people, just how they are, or what actions they do, or sometimes maybe even because of taqwa. An example is that of can say you might have heard that Muhajir and Ansar, how they used to love one another. And sometimes Muhajir, the migrants, they used to be very poor, right? They used to be very poor. And Ansar, some of them used to be very rich, and mashallah, they used to give a lot of sadaqah. And they saw the Muhajir, they saw that these Ansaris, they give a lot of sadaqah, they have pretty good wealth, and we are like migrants, we don't have any money. And they said that, oh yeah, Rasulullah, they are going forward, they are gaining a lot of good deeds, and we are remaining behind. They are going to go much forward and fast on the day of judgment in Jannah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that, he basically, to make it short, he said that he taught them certain dhikr. And he said that if you make this dhikr, you will be able to match them or be more than them. Okay. But when the Ansaris found out that, okay, look, Rasulullah ﷺ taught them this dhikr, we should do that too. So now they were not only making dhikr, also giving sadaqah. Then the Muhajirun said that, now how can we beat them? They are doing both. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he said that, Allah gives to whom He wills. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored some people, and He gives to whomever He wills. And remember what the Ansaris did. When the Muhajirun came to Medina, they sacrificed their desires. They said that what is most beloved to us is wealth. I give my half of the wealth to you, half of the garden to you. So they are basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Hashr that even though they needed few things, they still preferred their brother and they gave it to him. That's the level of taqwa. That's what we said, zuhud. You need it. It's permissible for you to keep it, but you still prefer others over you. That's what the Ansaris did. And because of that, Allah had special favor. Allah had special mercy on them. Kiflain, the double mercy, and He raised their status. So that's one example. And also we mentioned many hadith earlier how these 70,000 people will enter into Jannah without what? Without any hisab, without any accounting. Why? It's a special mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they did certain actions which were proving the fact that they had very high taqwa, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had so much mercy on them that He said, I don't want to even look at your good deeds and bad deeds. You're certified, guaranteed Jannah, just go out of my mercy. So it's a special mercy given to very privileged people, and taqwa is one of those areas where you can get that mercy. So don't ever underestimate taqwa. And success in the hereafter, in Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَيُنَجِّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا بِمَفَازَتِهِمْ لَا يَمَسُّهُمُ السُّوءُ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And Allah will save those who had taqwa by their achievement of paradise. No evil will touch them, nor will they grieve. So it's talking about hereafter when we are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, decision will be made whether we go into Jannah or hell. These people, inshallah, who are taqwa, they will not go into hellfire, they will go directly into Jannah. There are some Muslims who will be punished in the hellfire first for a few days, years, months, whatever it is, and then they will be cleansed, and then they will be sent to Jannah. Probably they were not that good in doing a lot of good deeds and had a lot of bad deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that if you have my taqwa, no evil will touch you, not even a single second of hellfire. It will not come to you. So So that's the very great blessing. And obviously, if you have strong taqwa, you will always keep yourself away from sins. That's what the whole thing. So if you focus on taqwa, inshallah, your hereafter is all set. You don't have to worry about it. The last one, the last benefit of taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned about this one as the best clothing. يا بني آدم قد أنزلنا عليكم لباسا يواري سوآتكم وريشا ولباس التقوى ذلك خير ذلك من آيات الله لعلهم يذكرون. O children of Adam, we have bestowed upon you clothing to conceal your private parts and as adornment. But the clothing of taqwa, that is the best. That is from the signs of Allah that perhaps they will remember. Very interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses taqwa and He says it's the best form of clothing. What does it really mean? It's the best form of clothing. So basically what happens is it's like a spiritual clothing. When you have clothing, the two benefits of it, right? One thing is that you cover your ugliness, and the second thing is it makes you look beautiful. That's what the purpose of clothing is. And taqwa exactly does the same thing in the spiritual world. When you have taqwa, it covers up your ugliness of the sins, the evil desires that you have in your heart. Your taqwa covers it because it is shielded, right? Remember, its evil desires are shielded because of taqwa. So that's a clothing for you. And it's also taqwa, it beautifies you. It beautifies you. It is basically, it will make you look beautiful. People see you that, mashallah, this is a muttaqi person. It adds to your beauty. You know, sometimes you see these people who are like face-wise, personality-wise, they are very beautiful. But what happens, you see them that these are murderers, they stole a lot of money or this, so all that beauty is gone, is it? It's of no value. So Allah is saying the best clothing is the clothing of taqwa. It will automatically add that nur to you and to your clothing and to your whole personality. So taqwa does that to you. So that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. The best clothing that you can get is the clothing of taqwa. Okay, the other physical material, that's just simple cloth. But if you're really worried about the clothing that you should be wearing, it is taqwa. It basically acts as a protection to you in the spiritual world. So that was about the benefits, blessings of taqwa. Let's look into some other part of the things like strengthening taqwa, about how we can strengthen. And the first place, why can't people go for strong taqwa? What is preventing people to not have taqwa or strengthen than taqwa? Everybody knows it's such a big thing. Why are they not going for this? Why people don't have taqwa? It's basically, some of the common reasons we can say is that it's the lack of knowledge. People basically, they don't know. They don't understand. They don't want to learn Islam. And we see them committing sins and we tell them, brother, don't you know that this is haram? And they're like, really? I don't know. So if you don't know what is halal and haram, how are you going to have taqwa? There's nothing to shield against, so you have to have some knowledge. And that's the reason why we are conducting it, so that you know what is right and wrong. The halaqas help you. And second thing is, people are just lazy. It's like a disease in their heart. They know that, yeah, I know, brother, I should be staying away from it. I know it is haram, but I'm weak. I cannot do it. It's not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a lot of pressure or stress at them. It's just that they are lazy. They have so much of inclination to their evil desires and love for evil desires that they don't want to really sacrifice it. So that's why laziness comes in and they don't want to do it. And love and addiction of evil desires. When you have this, you're going to lose taqwa. You have to protect yourself from these desires. So when you really are loving something, when you are involved in gambling or obscenity or alcohol, when these evil desires are there in your heart, you cannot go for having high level of taqwa. You have to stop them first. And this is the most important thing. Before I get into the actual tips, Taqwa is something you develop and enhance. It's not like you go to the store and say, $100 bill, give me taqwa. It's not going to happen. You have to work towards it. It's a process. It's, just like how I mentioned last week, it's like going to a gym. If you want to have good muscles, you work your way towards it. You start slowly with small weights, and then you work your way, and then 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, you become very strong and healthy and fit. So you're not going to become that strong and muscular in one day. It's not going to happen. So you just listen to a very good lecture from a big sheikh and then said, I'm a muttaqi, very strong person. No, it's just the bubble is going to burst within 1-2 days, because shaitan is very easy for him to really take you out. They can pop your bubble in no time. So go slowly, and remember what I said earlier, Allah will make the path easy for you. Go step by step, ladder by ladder, inshallah. Within few times you will be very strong. And just remember that it's not that easy. Also, you have to sacrifice. You have to go through some pain, because it is hard work. Allah is going to make it easy, but don't think it's going to be a smooth ride. You have to sacrifice something. The same example of gym, right? You're not like all having fun. People sweat, people have pains after they come back from gym. So it's going to be a painful process, but know that eventually when you continuously keep trying, Allah will help you, and because of that, inshallah, you will be able to attain taqwa. But let's really look at tips. There can be many tips I can give, but for the time consideration, I just put I think 6 of them, and inshallah these are from Quran and Sunnah and authentic, and inshallah if we follow these tips, our taqwa inshallah will be very strong, very high. Okay, let's look at some of them, how we can attain taqwa. First thing, very obvious, everybody knows, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, so that you may attain taqwa. This word لعلكم, لعلهم, when you see these words, it has a causal relationship. Because of this, that happens. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if you fast, because of that fast, you will be given taqwa. So fasting helps you shoot your levels of taqwa. And that's the reason Allah is saying, you will fall into desires because of the shaitan and all. That's why He kept this whole month of Ramadan, so that He trains you, and that you become a muttaqi person, so that the rest of the 11 months you can fight with shaitan and be successful. That's the reason. But this is just 1 month of fasting. That's not the only fasting that we do, right? If you just want to stay away from haram and just follow the halal, probably okay, that's some level of taqwa you have. But if you want to reach very high levels of taqwa, as I discussed in the previous slides, you have to do more. You have to follow the sunnah fast, right? You know what the sunnah fasts are, right? What are those? The Monday, Thursdays, the 3 white days, 13th, 14th and 15th, and then the fast of Shawwal, the 9th and 10th of what? Muharram, Ashura, and the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, the day of Arafah. So these are all the days of fasting. So if you want to be really strong Muslim with a very powerful shield, then you have to do all those things. You get very strong that way. So that's one thing Allah is saying. If you want a shortcut, if you want to really have taqwa very quickly, this is the way. You fast for His cause. Not only Ramadan, but more than that. Second thing, increasing your worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O mankind, worship your Lord who created you and those before you, that you may attain taqwa. Again the word you see, لعلكم. Because of your great worship, you will be granted taqwa. So this is very comprehensive and generic worship that we're talking about. So every time you try to do a worship, extra ibadah, or even protecting yourself from sins, you quickly raise your taqwa levels. So any good thing you do, any command you follow, any worship you do, obligatory or voluntary, because of that, that's a very quick way of attaining taqwa. Okay, let's look at another one. Learning and seeking knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا وَصَرَّفْنَا فِيهِ مِنَ الْوَعِيدِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ أَوْ يُحْدِثُ لَهُمْ ذِكْرًا. And thus we have sent it down as a Qur'an in Arabic and have explained therein in detail the warnings in order that they may have taqwa, or that it may cause them to have a lesson from. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I am explaining this Qur'an in detail, the warnings of that Qur'an. So when you understand the detailed explanations of these verses, what's going to happen when you learn it? They will have taqwa. Again the same word, لَعَلَّهُمْ. So just by understanding all these different rulings, all these different verses, and even the very fact that we are coming to this halaqah and learning about this topic, this in and of itself, inshallah, will increase our taqwa. Because what we are learning here, we are learning what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us, what Allah is explaining in the Qur'an, right? So that's what it is. When you try to understand the detailed explanations and the warnings, what will happen? Your taqwa level will go up. It's a shortcut for you. You will quickly gain taqwa, inshallah. Recitation of Qur'an. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And we send down from the Qur'an that which is a healing and a mercy to those who believe. How is this connected with taqwa? This verse. You see, as I said before, people don't have taqwa because they have evil desires in their heart, they are lazy, this and that. Why do they have evil desires? Why do they have laziness in their heart in the first place? That's because they have a disease. Frankly speaking, they have a disease in their heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, whenever I send a disease, I send cure for it. Right? And that's why He's saying, we send Qur'an, which is a healing and a mercy. You have evil desires in your heart, you want cure from it. It's not Advil, it's not Tylenol, it's going to remove your the evil desires. What do you have to do? Read Qur'an. Recite Qur'an. What is it going to do? It's a healing and a mercy. It is going to heal your evil desires. And we're not saying Qur'an, recite it like a parrot. People recite Qur'an like they're absent-minded. They're probably doing their office work or planning, 5-year planning, whatever it is, while reading Qur'an. That's not how you read Qur'an. Yeah, it's true that most of us don't speak Arabic, but when you read open Qur'an, there are some words which we know. When you see a word called Allah, you can, don't be absent-minded. Try to understand, okay, it's talking about Allah here. Jannatun tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. You don't have to be a scholar to understand it. It's talking about Jannah, the rivers flow beneath it. Rahma, Ghaffar, Ghafoor, and so the stories of many Anbiya. So it's good that you understand, you learn Arabic, but if you are at a stage where you don't really completely understand Arabic, I'm sure there are at least 20-30 words to the minimum. Most of us know most of that. If you listen the word Musa, you have in your mind the thing going on there. Okay, the story of Musa is going on here, so maybe I can catch up some words. Okay, so it's the best thing is that you also read the translation of it. But if you don't have that much time, if you're only able to read few verses, try to see some words, and inshallah, because of your focusing on the recitation of those words, you will increase your vocabulary automatically, because now you get familiar with those words, so learning Arabic becomes very easy for you. So inshallah, so don't just absent-mindedly recite Quran. People are like, I have to finish my whole Quran khatam in Ramadan, just finish it somehow, don't even understand what I'm saying, just go very fast. No, that's not how it should be read. If you really want to get rid of all the evil desires, you take it as a healing, and the way you do it is you read it with full consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next thing, how can I strengthen my taqwa, is a dua from Quran. Who can give me which dua it is? Most of you already know it. The word taqwa comes in it. Let me give you a hint. Which verse has the word taqwa? You ask for an increase in taqwa, or you ask for taqwa. Some of you should know. We recite this very often. Never heard of it? You should memorize this. This is important. This is a dua that you should be making every salah. Surprised if you don't do it. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. O Lord, bestow on us from our wives and our offspring who will be the comfort of our eyes, and make us the leaders of the muttaqun. Make us the leaders of the muttaqun. It's interesting in this verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not saying, ask for taqwa. He's saying, go for the highest. Just don't say, I want taqwa. I want to be the leader of the muttaqun. I don't have to be like a scholar to become a muttaqi person. No, Allah is saying, try your best. Whatever you have, just go for it. So, and he's saying, be the leader of the muttaqi. So, people, the attitude that you should be having here is that this brother is a pious brother, I'm going to beat him. I will do better than him, and I want to be the leader of the muttaqi. So we don't go around show-offing people, but in our heart, we try to outdo everybody and compete with everybody and be better than them, and we try to be the leader of the muttaqun. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Give your best and just don't ask for taqwa, ask for being the leaders of the muttaqun. Okay, that's kind of attitude that you should have. And last thing, the hadith. This is a dua in the hadith. This is also something that you should memorize, and inshallah we'll stop with that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned this in Sahih Muslim, this dua. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-huda wa tuqa wal-afafa wal-ghina. This is again after every salah, you should be making this dua. Very beautiful. Oh Allah, I ask you for guidance and taqwa and chastity and self-sufficiency. So these are the tips, inshallah, and if we have time we'll go more. So the whole point here is that, brothers and sisters, that just knowing about taqwa is not sufficient. It has to get into your heart. It has to be seen in your actions. So I hope that what I presented to you will help you in implementing in your actions. But remember that few days from now you will again forget what we discussed. So this is something that you need to be reminded again and again. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't stop after one Ramadan. He says every year you have to do it, because you will forget and you will also lose taqwa. And you have to remember that all these tips that I gave, these increase taqwa. But I didn't go into the things that will cause the taqwa to go down. Don't think that, okay, I will follow the 6 steps and my taqwa will go up. Yes, it will go up, but you have to stay away from things that will cause your taqwa to go down. And the obvious thing is that if you commit sins and if you're not doing enough worship, the taqwa levels start going down, and ultimately your shield will become very weak, and evil desires will eventually attack your heart. And that's when the heart gets sinful and diseased, your whole body is corrupted, and you will not be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anymore. You will keep falling behind and away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps us understand and implement whatever we learn in our lives, and make us successful and forgive our sins and make us among the leaders of the muttaqun. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك.